We've made over $500,000 from these 4 strategies. My name is Darius.
And I'm Carmen. It is very exciting for us to go back and look at these milestones and see what we've done. And we figured that we should share this information with you. So the very first point that we want to dive into is about debt ownership. We have owned our own debt. And we're really excited about that because if you look at this video, which is an old video, we share exactly how we were planning to get out of debt. And so for those of you who are new to the Wealth Nation channel, we just welcome you. And we want you to know that we actually got out of debt by using whole life insurance to finance our debt. Now, we're not going to go into all those details because we have a ton of videos online about that. But today is just about the specific things that we've done to create extra cash flow in our lives. And the very first point, like we said, is we've used the strategy of having high cash value whole life insurance as the vehicle to help us pay off our debt that has now allowed us to own our own debt. And that was over $120,000.
Now, the important thing I want you to get from it is not necessarily the fact that they use whole life insurance policies to pay off their debt, but it's what we learned from this process. Is we learned the rules of money, and one of the rules of money is that it has to stay in motion. Money has to continuously move, because when you think about the banks as an example, when your deposits go into the bank, the first thing you might do on a monthly basis is pay your mortgage. So banks have the ability for money to come into their system and then go into another account that's for them, not for you.
Yeah. We
We have to understand how this works and how it can work in our favor. And that's what we learned through this process of infinite banking and getting out of $120,000 worth of debt, and then not just ending there, taking it a step further to start owning our own debt. Because one of the things that we learn, the second thing we learn, is that we finance every single thing that we do. Every time we spend money, we're financing it, because even if we save up the money and spend cash for it, we still have to replace those funds. So we're still financing it. Even if we get it on credit, yes, we start at negative XYZ and have to pay interest, but then we work our way back up to zero. Money has to stay in motion. And when we realized that, that's when things started to change for us, because we were able to put that sauce on everything.
And the thing too is, like, when we looked at how much money we were paying in interest, and we recognized that we could keep some of that interest for ourselves, like our highest interest payment was 26%, and we had, I think it was 10 debts at the time. Like, when you start having multiples of that, you start recognizing how much money is leaving your household. And when we looked at how much money was leaving our household, we were like, we have to do something about this, because we're making the banks rich just within our small micro economy. And so we just started looking at things from a different perspective on our own scale, right? We had to look at it one debt at a time, because we weren't able to take over the entire $120,000 in one pop. It just started with, like a few $100 debt that we paid off, paid it back to ourselves. Then we moved to the next one in kind of like the snowball fashion. So the very first step again was the owning our debt, meaning paying off the debt and then bringing all of that cash flow back to us, which was the minimum payments that we were paying to the banks. We continue to make those payments back to ourselves for the term in which we promised the bank that we would, to include the interest, and all that money just comes back into our system, which we can use for investing and for any other cash flow purpose that we have. So it's really awesome to see what you can do by just moving money from one pocket to the next.
Right. We kept money in motion. Now, one thing I want you to make sure you understand as we go through not just this strategy, but all the strategies, is the fact that we've made these strategies habits. We've made these strategies habits. So when they become a habit, it's hard for us to go back to how things were. Yeah. So instead of us going to finance things from third parties, we only finance things through our own system. Because remember, Carmen said that we are a macro economy. You're the same way. Your macro economy. What are some of the things that you're doing that you can start, that you can create a different routine for? And that's what we did when we understood and started using the infinite banking concept. Is we created a different routine for our own macro economy, and we realized that we are a business. We are a business. Now, the second point that we want to make is how, moving from the first strategy, we started to understand how much money that the average person spends in interest. A lot of times people spend more money in interest than they do save. And we've said that on a ton of videos. And I hope you get the point that we're trying to make is the fact that we set a milestone for ourselves, which is to get out of debt, but it didn't end there. We had to continue to move on to the second point, which is we live off less income than what we earn. We actually live off of 70% of our income and we save 30.
I was going to say with that point, I think with everything that we've been learning throughout our financial journey, we just recognize the significance of paying ourselves first because we didn't value that at first. And the more money we kept saving and paying ourselves, we're like, wow, we really need to be a little bit more aggressive with this because we saw what it allowed us to do and the financial freedom that it brought us. And so that's why for now, like Darius said, we're living off of 70%, but the goal is to live off of much less than that. And again, you have to start where it makes sense for you. So we didn't start here. Remember, we didn't start there. We started at zero, probably way negative of just not even saving at all. And then, robbing from Peter to pay Paul to make things work. So again, this is a Cinderella story from where we were to where we are now. And you just have to continue to build on it. So we're again, just sharing this information with you because this has brought significant cash flow to ourselves and we're not stopping there.
Right.
So live off of less than you can so that you can use that savings to start transforming yourself so that you can have financial independence.
Right. Now, living off 70% of our income is great, but it doesn't end there. We want to get to the point to where we're living off 5% of our income. And the only way we can do that is if we continue to set milestones and continue to change our habits. As long as we continue to change our habits is how we get to the point to where we're living off 5% of our income. Agreed. Now, let's break down on the income in which we live off of. It's broken down into 3 different categories. It's our fixed expenses, it's our flexible expenses, which include our debt, and then the third one is our savings. So first off, every time we get paid, 30% of every dollar that we get paid goes straight to savings. We wanted to make sure that we are the biggest expense that we have. And what we realized when we were going through this transition is our mortgage was the top of the list. Our car note was on the top of the list. Everything else was on the top of the list. And sometimes we didn't even make our own list. Yeah. So the first mindset shift that we had to make, or first transition we had to make, is to put ourselves at the top of that list. And as we
or on the list, right? Because we had to start. We had to get on the list consistently, and then we had to build up ourselves. The further and further we went up the list,
right? But here's to show you how you can rig this game into your favor. Because just like how we said that we own our debt. Our flexible expenses made up majority of debt, in which we're able to own the debt. So when we pay our expenses or our flexible expense, 40% of our income is going towards debts that we own. So that kind of puts things into perspective as to how we're continuing to funnel money into the next strategy. Because the nice thing about this is these strategies build on themselves, and these habits build on themselves. And you really have to understand the habits that you're creating, if it's serving you or if it's hurting you. Anything that's hurting you, you need to get rid of it as fast as you can. But the first thing you have to do is identify it. And what really helped us is the fact that one domino knocked over another domino, and we started realizing all these opportunities that we had around us and how we can start benefiting for ourselves, because it was benefiting somebody else.
And so I think we can go straight to the next point, which is how we saved enough money to where we had 12 months of savings covered. And we did kind of subscribe to the original rule, which was like have 3 to 6 months worth of savings. But just with everything that we've seen in the world and how quickly time goes, we said, let's be a little bit more aggressive and let's have at least 12 months of our expenses liquid so that we can just know that when we're investing, our household won't ever be affected. So that's kind of our play. So we have 12 months of savings that's liquid within one of our policies, and we use that as our resource fund, right? And then every other dollar that we are saving or we are making is going straight to investing. And that's really where the game started to change for us, because we had to build to this. We had to have the savings for our resource fund. And then from there, we knew that all all bets were off and we could start investing and start creating cash flow for ourselves, for our future selves, and for our children.
Right. So just to bring it home, the third point is the fact that every dollar over our 12 months of savings, we're able to invest those funds so that it can start making money for us, because there's three different types of incomes that you have, or four, depending on who you're talking to. Is you have your ordinary income, you have your portfolio income, and you have your passive income. What we're working on right now is our portfolio income, because when we can get our portfolio the way we want it, that's when we're able to live off of 5% of our income, because the money is making money for us.
Yes.
The money is making money for us, and then we can start transitioning to passive income.
And that's really where we're talking about this whole process and building up to it, because right now we know where we are as far as cash flow goes. We know where we want to be, and it comes down to just having a plan and working the plan. Because sometimes, or even when we first got started, we were always just dependent on our ordinary income, and it was only two, right? It was my income and Darius's income from corporate America, and so we recognized that limited us or it held us back, because we were only being paid a portion of our potential. And so when we got sick and tired of that, we said, no, we know that we're worth so much more. We know that we can create multiple streams of income for ourselves. And we had to completely change our lifestyle in order to make that happen, so that we can live the life of our dreams, create financial independence, and also have more control over our income.
Right. And what really helped us make that adjustment is when I got laid off. Me being laid off changed my whole mindset around what I thought was concrete and what wasn't. And having a job where I'm working for somebody else and understanding that I'm just a number on a spreadsheet, when there's adjustments that needs to be made, it's going to be made to the spreadsheet, not the people at the top. So if you really want control over your life, you need to be able to control more of your lifestyle through the amount of income that's coming into your household also.
Yeah, I would say that. So with the fourth point, it's all about becoming an expert at one thing. So do you want to tackle that one, Darius?
Yeah. So when we talk about becoming an expert at one thing, that goes back to my other point about having a business that generates your ordinary income instead of you being dependent on somebody else. Now, we're always going to be dependent on having customers, but when you think about the money that initially comes in, how many people get paid before you when you're working at a Fortune 500 company? There's thousands of people that get paid before you do. So if there's going to be cuts, it's going to be cuts at the bottom, because the least important part of a business is the bottom. So if that's where you are, you have to be thinking about the potential of what could possibly happen to you in the event a market crashes, or in the event something happens with our economy. You have to be prepared for those things. So what we were able to do is we realized that we had a story within how we got out of debt, and we became experts at just one thing, which is getting ourselves out of debt and owning our own debt. And we made a business around that, which is why we're insurance agents now, is because we're able to talk to exactly what made us successful. And success breeds success. You can't go and talk to a wealth planner that doesn't have any money, because he's not able to show you how to be successful if he's not. You can't go and talk to a basketball player who doesn't have any experience in playing basketball and think that he's going to show you how to be an expert basketball player. That's not the case. So you have to think of these things when you think of your expertise. That's why we're always talking about doing something that you're passionate about. Because when we talk about infinite banking, we've been doing this for free for years. We've been doing it for free for years. And it wasn't until somebody else came to us and told us that we should be monetizing this, because one thing that we can always make is money. We can't always get our time back. So our time is the most valuable thing that we have, because we enjoy spending time with our friends, our family, and especially my kids. But become an expert at one thing and build off of that, because you learn so much in the process.
And also too, you realize that a lot of the brands and the businesses that you support are the ones that you resonate with. and are the ones that you believe in. So when you look at the creators, you recognize that the creators are probably teaching or got involved in the business because they recognized the need. They were an expert themselves and they decided to help others and serve. And so when we recognized our strategy or the fact that we were an expert and really started to value that and saw that we could make a business around it, we recognized that, oh, okay, how do we start creating a business around this? How can we start generating income from this? And what is life going to look like? And what is the lifestyle that we can create from this business and from this specific knowledge that we have? Because there's riches in niches, ladies and gentlemen. And far too often do we get distracted by thinking we have to be a one-stop shop and we have to have our hands in everything. And that's where our focus is not narrowed, where we don't have clarity and we tend to be all over the place because we think that somebody's going to value that we know all of these things. Where sometimes people come to you for specialized knowledge. And there is so much value when you just work with somebody who has specialized knowledge and you recognize that people will actually pay you a premium because you have specialized knowledge and not because you're a jack of all trades and a master of none.
Right. And the next phase of having specialized knowledge is to teach that knowledge to other people to add value to them. So really take those things into consideration when you're looking outside of you for what you're good at. You should be looking inside and look at exactly what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. If somebody asks you twice how you do a certain thing, then maybe you might be an expert at that particular thing. But then like us, what we did is we went out and we started investing in real estate because the research that we did suggests that the people that do real estate make the most money. When that wasn't a passion that we had because of what was pulling at our heartstrings, but it was something that we did to make money.
Yeah. Going back to the passions and how we can be misled to do things because of it's money driven, right? Like exactly what you said, Darius, is we got into real estate because that's where you make all the money, but that wasn't where our heart was leading us. We're just like, we're going to get involved in this because we can make money. And then we recognize that the passion wavered. And so until you can get involved in something that, again, you're specialized in, that you have passion behind, that's where you're going to start to see that your lifestyle changes once you start monetizing it, because a lot of y'all out there are selling your passion for free, like how we did. And we didn't value the knowledge that we had to understand that there's millions of people all over the world who are looking for the answers that we can provide them. And we just had to learn how to create a business around it.
Right. Now, the whole point of all these different strategies isn't the fact that we are doing these things. It's just the fact that we created habits around them. And we wanted our habits to get us to a point to where we can invest and have our money making money for us. So regardless of where you start, the idea of your final destination is always going to be your money making money for you, which is your investments. And in order for investments to work, you first need to have money to invest. In order for you to have money to invest, you need to be able to save money. In order for you to save money, that means you need to live off less income than what you currently have. In order for you to do that, you need to not be in third-party debt, because the average person spends more money in interest than they actually save. So it's all connected in what you do inside of your macro economy.
Yeah, the overall premise, I think, for Darius and I, and especially for this video, as you were kind of recapping these things, is I recognize it all boils down to investing, which is important to us because we're trying to get to this passive income play. And so when you recognize the amount of money that you're generating, it's nice clickbait, right, for you to see how much money we're generating. But the fact is we got to keep this money moving. We got to keep this money going within our portfolio so that the end of the day, the name of the game is the passive play, so that we can continue to cash flow and not have to work for the money. The money is working for us.
Right. And I think we mentioned money a lot, but money isn't the end game. It's the assets that money can buy.
True.
And the assets is what continues to appreciate over time. We know money itself is a depreciating asset. It's actually a liability every time we get it. So what we want to do is, as fast as we get it, to invest it as soon as possible. And that's through our investing in different asset classes. Now, we only mention asset classes briefly because we have a video for that. So if you want more information on the different asset classes in which you can invest to help increase your portfolio income and get you to that passive income, then check out this video where we talk about the 4 asset classes you need for life.
And don't forget to own your own lifestyle.
Or someone else will.